Okay, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. First of all, I appreciate everybody's time and attendance this afternoon. We'll probably take about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on questions. I'm hoping it's a short but very powerful training session in regards to basic income qualification. If you could make sure your doors are shut, all your other devices are turned off, and I have your complete attention, I promise it will be worth it. And everybody who's registered for the call today will receive a copy of this income calculation worksheet. Well, not a copy, you'll actually receive the spreadsheet itself. And you'll see as we go through it, it's an autofill spreadsheet and will make your life much easier. And I've got some written material, pretty much verbatim of what I'm going to say today, along with other income guidelines for other income sources. Today we're only going to cover your salary, your bonus, your overtime commission. We'll touch briefly on a couple of other types of income. We're just keeping it very basic today. I do appreciate, again, everybody's time and attendance, and all I ask from everybody is if you can at least send me one loan for this, that would be great. I would really appreciate it. One loan from everybody would make me a very happy camper. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. This income calculation worksheet is an Excel spreadsheet. It's fillable. After completing it, I would suggest that you print it to a PDF and include it in your file for our underwriters. Our underwriters actually use the same worksheet, and they put it in the file. So for your reference, if you're ever wondering how we've calculated your income, you can go into Avista and into ImageFlow, and you can find this income calculation worksheet, and you can see how we've structured your income. Okay, so what we're going to talk about first is your salary or hourly income. Typically, we're going to use your current salary or hourly wage. And there's different calculations we'll go through here in just a minute. What you've got to remember is your year-to-date and your previous year's income needs to support the current income. So I'm going to go through, and we're going to put together some figures here for current income. And here's your different calculations, very easy. So if I put in an annual figure here, it gives you your monthly total. So then if they're paid monthly, that's pretty easy. It calculates over for you. But then you get into the different types, like the semi-monthly. You put in that income, here's your calculation. You put in your biweekly. You've got that calculation, a weekly. You've got that calculation, and then your hourly, you're putting in their hourly wage times the number of hours they work per week to get your monthly average. So it's pretty basic. This is for your salaried or hourly borrower. You're not yet including any overtime, commission, or bonus income. And what you do with this worksheet, what we have to do with the income is we have to analyze it, and we have to make sure that the year-to-date and the previous year's earnings support their current earnings. So if you've got year-to-date pay stubs and W-2s, and they reflect something like this, so maybe $20,000 year-to-date for 4 months, it's $5,000 a month. Maybe last year earned around $58,000 last year. And the year prior to that, maybe more like $55,000. So as you can see, this gives you a quick analytical view of their income history. And this looks pretty normal. If this is how your file came in and your pay stubs and your W-2s documented it, we'll run with the current income. We have a gradual increase. Typically, we'll just take the current income because it's salary and run with it. It's typical to see an increase in income. Maybe some variations, though, start to come in after after you receive documentation. And let's say our year-to-date only reflects more of a $15,000 income. So now we've got salary income that's not supported by year-to-date and is lower than previous year's earnings. At that point, we're not going to count the salary income, the base of $5,000. We're going to count the $3,750 until we can document otherwise. Now, the opposite could be a problem as well. Let's say your year-to-date comes in, and we've shown an annual salary of $5,000, but now we get a year-to-date that comes in, and it shows that salary at $7,500. May not be as big of an issue unless you're doing a USDA loan, because USDA loans require that we use year-to-date monthly income. So if you've qualified them for USDA on $5,000, you get a pay stub and it shows $7,500, then that could be a problem. But outside of that, more income is usually better. At this point, we're probably going to ask you to break that down. But it could be an issue if we start breaking that income down, and now it's not just about salary. Maybe that salary is made up of different income types. And this is kind of why we're having the class today and why I thought it was important to have the class today. We're getting a lot of loans in that have been pre-qualified on year-to-date income only without really a thorough review of what the income's made up of and what it's looked like for the past 2 years. So I'm hoping today by showing you this and giving you a few scenarios and running through a few things, I think this is a great visual tool that will help you analyze the income. And then, typically we don't see this in on a salaried borrower. I guess maybe, it could happen. But what if we had declining income for a salaried borrower? I should probably change that. So if you have income that looks like this, where it's declined over the years, again, we're going to use this year-to-date figure unless something shows up in the file, unless there's documentation that helps us make sense to take an average or use the $5,000 a month. And then I know I talked a little bit, if there's a nominal increase in income from year to year and year to date, we can assume that's just, the natural cost of living raise that hopefully everybody gets each year with their salary. If it's a lot more significant than that, then we may have to document a recent raise. So if you had like 50 and 50, in year to date they've made $30,000, but $7,500 is their actual salary. We can still consider that $7,500 salary without a history as long as the employer documents the raise. And typically we need pay stubs to go with that. At this point, your documentation requirements are 30 days worth of pay stubs and 2 years W-2s. We really don't have to go much beyond that if we're working with just a salary. Once we get down into, say, commission income right off the bat is going to require tax returns so that we have to calculate any expenses against that commission income. So you want to make sure you're asking for tax returns, you're looking at the Schedule A, you're looking for unreimbursed employee expenses, and you're subtracting that from your income. Okay? There is not a calculation on this for that, unfortunately. Maybe I can talk my underwriters into adding that and redistribute it, but right now you'll do that manually, and you'll enter your commission. Oops, let's go 4 months, just so I stay on track. So if year to date, the pay stub reflects $3,000 in commission income. And then let's say 2012 is 7,500. You know, 2011 maybe 7,600. You're pretty much on track. We'll take a 2-year and a year-to-date average. Okay, we'll average all of these. What this little worksheet does for you that's cool, it goes ahead and adds your months for you and gives you your income figure. So on something that looks similar to that, we'll take a 2-year average and a year-to-date, and that's the income figure that we'll use for commission. Now, the guideline for commission income, bonus, and overtime, by the way, is 24 months. We need a minimum of 24 months. So here on this, we'll always go with the 2-year and a year-to-date if it works. If push comes to shove, we can use a true 24-month average where we're using 4 months here, 12 months here, and then it would be 8 months here. Okay. Commission income, you know, as far as declining versus increasing, kind of has the same thought process or guidelines as the, you know, the demonstration I gave for the salary. So if they've had much higher commission income, for the past 2 years, and it's not supported by the year-to-date, then we'll use this year-to-date figure of 750. Okay, what if it's lower? So what if year-to-date supports a much higher figure and your past years don't? That's the issue we're seeing, and I want to make sure I drive that point home today, that this is what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of loans come in based off of the year-to-date. We go to verify for the last couple of years, and it's much less. So in this case, we're going to come down here and probably use this total right here, the 2,107. Okay, and bonus really operates the same way. That's why they're both under the same category. Whether you have commission or bonus income, your same guidelines apply. Just because a borrower earns bonus income doesn't mean they haven't filed unreimbursed expenses. It's just a good idea for you to get into the habit of asking your borrowers. Don't ask them if they have any business expenses. A lot of them might say yes just because they think that maybe a car, you know, the gas they put in their car, lunches, you know, things like that might be considered a business expense. What you guys need to make sure you're asking when you take a loan application, on every loan application, is do you file a Schedule A with unreimbursed employee expenses? In fact, I would probably go one step further and require the first couple of pages of tax returns from each borrower on every loan, not the full tax returns, but at least a couple of pages. It actually can handle 2 things for you. First of all, it would verify your 4506T names and addresses so that you are certain of the address and the names they use when they file their tax returns, so that when we place our 4506T orders, we're not getting it rejected by the IRS for incomplete or inaccurate information. But the second thing it will do is it does disclose on there if a Schedule A was filed and what deductions were filed, and that would include deductions from unreimbursed expenses. Okay, and then we've got our overtime down here. So same concept. Okay, you're breaking out the different overtime figures for year-to-date and past year. Okay, so in this scenario, definitely we've had an increase in overtime, and we're probably going to use the we're probably going to use, I'm sorry. Okay, in this case, yeah, we have had an increase in overtime income. It hasn't been that much of an increase, but we'll still probably use the 28-month average in the overtime. So here's the deal when you get into bonus, commission, and overtime income. So now your documentation requirements grow because we have to be able to break out the commission, bonus, and overtime. So that's typically going to require a written VOE. And that's something else I would probably take on in a pre-qualification process, is that if you need, your overtime and your bonus income to qualify, unless you have a written VOE, you don't have a true picture on what that income looks like over the past couple of years. Because those incomes just vary. I mean, overtime obviously is based on how much overtime you work. Bonus and commission, is varied, based on what you produce. So it's a variable income, and you have to calculate an average, and that's how we're able to determine, for the most part, if it's going to continue for the next 3 years at that level, is because we've analyzed the last 2 years. That's why we have that guideline. Lenders, they want to see a breakdown, a history. They want to understand in detail for at least the last 24 months what the income looks like, so they're comfortable that the likelihood of the income is going to continue at least for the next 3 years of the loan, and that they're going to have the ability to repay it, and that in no way, shape, or form, have they gone out and just worked a few extra hours, maybe worked a little harder to facilitate a mortgage, but they don't plan on working those hours going forward or working as hard. That's kind of the thought process through here. Let me run through my notes and see if I've missed anything. It's pretty straightforward, but I think this little tool, like I said, really helps. I think another thing to mention is when you're working with part-time and second job income, it's the same thing. First of all, you need a 2-year history. So if your borrowers have a part-time job or a second job, you have to have a 2-year history of the part-time job, and you have to have a 2-year history of a borrower working 2 jobs. And again, that's to establish the borrower's intent, basically, that they didn't go out and get this second job or increase their part-time hours just to facilitate a mortgage. We need to get a good idea of what they've done the last 2 years to know the next 3 years, they're going to continue to do the same. And on this income analysis, you can, of course, print one of these for each employer if you want to. If you have multiple jobs, even multiple borrowers, I would not combine their income on this worksheet. I would do a separate worksheet for each borrower. And I didn't really go through it, but at the top here, you do have the ability to put the loan number, the borrower, their title, their employer, their start date, and the date of their VOE. You guys, if you took this on and completed it on every loan for every borrower, for every employer, your underwriters will love you to death. This will make their job so much easier. Half the time when they are calculating income, they spend trying to figure out what you did, because they don't want to think they missed something either. So they'll go in, and the first thing they'll do is they'll look and see how you calculated the income and where you got your figures, and then they'll go through and calculate the income according to the guidelines, and we go from there. So if you can take at least half the thought process away for them and show them how you've calculated your income, you're going to get less conditions, faster turn times, and a happier underwriter. And those of you who work with DoLine, you know that we do allow you access directly to our underwriters, and we encourage that you develop relationships with the underwriters. This is definitely one of the ways you can develop those relationships. Using tools like this really does make their job easier, and that's what really saves or facilitates a relationship. You know, and our income calculations should be fairly standard in the industry. Sure, you may get some differences that, you know, from lender to lender, but, you know, we just can't come up with our own calculations just to make or break a deal. You know, we've got to work within industry standards. Some of us have a few more overlays than others, but really it should be fairly standard. You know, so, I mean, sometimes we do need to take into special consideration, you know, different circumstances. And we can do that. One of the tools that we have available for you to do that is myself and our underwriting hotline. Our underwriter on call, if you want that phone number, is 801-506-2142. And you're welcome to call the underwriter and ask them, or you can email. You can go to underwritingquestions@nlmtg.com. That's underwritingquestions@nlmtg.com. You can go directly to the underwriters, present your scenario, provide supporting documentation as much as you can up front, or you can contact me, Chris Duffield, 801-759-8521, or kduffield@nlmtg.com. Send us your information. Let us help you calculate the income. It will help put together this income worksheet for you. You know, especially if you have a special consideration you need us to take a look at, and we'll see what we can do, you know, before you go through the process, you know, putting together a full file. We're more than happy to help you because we know in this day and age, every loan is different, more documentation than ever is required. There always seems to be something special that pops up. I'm amazed after 35 years how many new scenarios I get on a daily basis, not even on a weekly basis. So it's not easy out there. It takes some teamwork. You know, we're definitely, we've got our ear to the ground on what our lenders and investors, you know, will let us get away with and make us work within, I should say. My underwriter would kill me if she heard me just say that. But yeah, use us, and we'll be happy to help you and put together the income before you go through and submit the file. So that is it. That took all of 23